Welcome to We Got Goals, a podcast on which we talk to high achievers about their goals. I'm Kristen Guile. I'm the Chief Content Officer at ASWEATLIFE.com, and with me today is Colleen Werner. She is the founder and CEO of Lulafit, which is a wellness company that's aimed at modernizing well-being to empower people in their everyday lives. She's also got a background as a former professional ballet dancer and has now started Lulafit to build community and conversation around our physical, mental, and social well-being. Colleen, how are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for that intro.
Oh, no problem. We got to let the people know who they're listening to. But, I said all the bullet points, but I would love to hear your story a little bit more in your own words and more about your background and how it has led you to where you are today.
Yeah. So as you kind of touched on, I'm now an entrepreneur. I got here by way of being a professional dancer, and had a really amazing career for over a decade in ballet and contemporary ballet all over the country. And I always say the only career that's crazier than being an entrepreneur is being a dancer. So I think it prepared me well for what I do now, and founding a company and running a company. And so about 6 or 7 years ago, gosh, I have to remember what year it is, I founded Lulafit. And, as you mentioned, my goal was really to modernize well-being and to empower people and help people live better lives. And really by doing that in a holistic way. So today, we're a much larger company. We have a national brand, which is exciting. And, we've survived a tough year, which is, I think, a big feat for any small business. And we focus on kind of those three cornerstones that you spoke about, right? Which is just in large, the social, the mental, and the physical well-being of our communities. So we do this like really by way of real estate and large corporate users. So our main customer is like a big commercial office building or a large residential building. We run all of our well-being program in those spaces, and then also a large corporation, right? So some Fortune 500 companies and larger, and whether we're in their space or their employees have our app, we're able to connect people that way. So I've been very fortunate to get a large reach to our products and services, and it's been a very fun ride.
Okay, so a couple of questions that are related. I would love to hear how Lulafit today has changed from when you first started it, and in conjunction with that, like how it has changed and how you guys have pivoted since the pandemic. Because like you said, it's been a interesting year for small business owners, medium, big size business owners everywhere, especially in the fitness and wellness industry. So I'd love to hear more about what's kept you on your feet.
Oh yeah. Just aside from having a business, there's always something. I would say, like, there's been a lot of tough years. This has definitely been a tough year. There's been a lot of other tough years, right? So there's a lot of things as an entrepreneur that keeps you on your feet, big and small. I would say, like, the one thing that hasn't changed is our mission, like this constant like drive to really bring like accessible well-being programming to like people where they are, right? Like where they live, where they work, kind of everywhere in between. And so that's just the iterations of that have kind of come up over the last 6-7 years. So, we really started like very strongly in residential real estate where people live. We really, continued to grow. And in about 2016, we pivoted and took on a new service line to serve commercial office buildings as well. So that was like a big undertaking. So like really identifying any large commercial real estate asset and taking over the management of those amenity spaces and putting well-being into the fabric of a building, which has been a huge passion of mine since we spend so much time in them, as you know, especially those of us who live in cities. And then obviously the pandemic this year kind of took us all out of those spaces. And so this year has really focused on how do we do that in a digital way, and how do we keep people connected to those spaces, but most importantly to each other in a way that makes sense and is fun and exciting for people. So that's been a lot of what this year is focused on, is I don't know if the world's going to ever go back to completely the way it was, and that's okay. So how do we, continue to meet people's needs, whether they're working from home, working from an office, traveling, living out of a, Sprinter van in Colorado, whatever people are doing. And so that's been such a fun challenge for us to take on this year. And I'm really excited about where it's taken us.
And I might be wrong about this, but I think the first time I heard about Lulafit, I was mostly engaged with your fitness offerings and your training offerings. But it sounds like you've expanded since then from offering just straight workouts and trainer access. Am I right in that?
Yeah. So like right from the beginning, we've always had a lot of different components of the business. I would say like fitness is always what I've called like the gateway drug to Lulafit. It's like definitely, yeah. So like, it's definitely something like people are like, oh yeah, like I feel like I've taken a Lulafit fitness class or like met someone who was part of the fitness team at Lulafit. We also have a very large, programs team, which consists of obviously our fitness and wellness providers, but we've got dietitians, we've got chefs, we've got massage therapists. We have one of our largest teams is actually our events team. So we do, massive events, both, in person, pre-pandemic, anything from, happy hours to game nights. We've done, especially over the pandemic, even taken this further. I mean, we've got, fashion shows and concerts going on and, all sorts of stuff on our platform. So, I truly believe that wellness is more than just moving, right? It's an important component of it and a lot of, very accessible for a lot of people who think, I want to be well, I got to move or I got to eat right. But I would say, we equally weigh the mental, the mindfulness, and also the social. For a lot of us, being well and something good we can do for ourselves is interacting with another human being. Right now, a lot of that is virtual, but it's something that we need. So that's been an important piece for us too.
And that whole life picture of wellness, is that something that you picked up from being a former professional dancer too? Like I'd imagine when you're working full time in that capacity, you're worried a lot about your physical fitness, but you probably realized pretty quickly that it's more than just logging, 8-10 hour days of movement.
That's like the toughest lesson I think for anyone to learn, right? Like you can't do too much of one thing or another. And I think athletes learn it a little bit differently because unlike now where I spend too much time sitting every day, I spent like almost too much time moving, right? So it's like, how do I do all these other things that help me kind of regenerate and restore? And so I think that's a big piece of it. I mean, to be honest with you, I think, I felt very comfortable as it was my job to understand my body. That was my entire profession. It was my job to understand like how to fix myself, how to, get myself in like top, physical condition. And that includes mental health and social health. Those things weren't always, perfectly aligned, but it was my job to know how. And I think, as I kind of was exiting that career and I'd gone to college and gotten a degree in kinesiology, I realized not everybody has a very good understanding of their body. I always say like our bodies are the most sophisticated piece of technology we're ever going to own. But really nobody knows how to use them. And so I think like, it's not just about like, people know the basic components. I think like I should exercise, I should eat well, but they don't really understand how it all comes together. And so I think that's, one of the things that we do well is helping people understand not only how to do it, when to do it, where to do it, and actually doing it with them, but why, which is equally as important.
Let's get into the bookend questions that we like to ask everyone who comes on this podcast. So can you tell me about a big goal that you've had in the past, why it was important to you, and how you got there?
Yeah, it's such a great question. So I would say one of the biggest things is I really when I built the company, I really wanted to build a company I wanted to work for. And being in like the dance industry, right, the ballet industry, the fitness and wellness industry as well, that's really difficult to do because there's a lot of companies out there. I would say there's a lot of mistreatment of people in our industry. It's like really easy to take advantage of people who hustle and work hard and like not pay them well, not give them access to benefits. And I really just didn't want to build a company that was like that. I will say, like, I'll be the first to admit, we have not always been able to achieve this, right? But it's been so important to me that I've always gone back to it. Like, how do we really build it differently? And I've met a lot of other entrepreneurs on the way who are also like working on this mission, right? One of the biggest things is like hiring people full time, really like not relying on 1099 contractors. It's so easy to just like start a wellness company because there's so much like contract work. Yeah. And we definitely have gotten into phases of the business where we were growing so fast, so quickly. I mean, last year we grew by 400%, right? So you're just exploding and there's like almost no time to like strategically think about like how you're going to bring on new people. You're just trying to get people in the door and like you're training people in like, mass groups. And I think, this year, one of the blessings of kind of like the pandemic for us was like reminding ourselves, like, this is not what I set out to build. Like, I've been that 1099 contractor. I've been paid $18 an hour to teach something that cost me $10,000 to get certified in. And I just don't believe in it. And so I was so happy to get the space this year to like slow down for a second so that we could rebuild. And I'm happy that we're back to our full-time, model. And it's just something we've been really trying to continue to work in as we scale. And I would say it's difficult, but knowing that like that's where I want to go. And so all of my people are aligned with me there too, including my investors and my board, makes it really special. So that was like, I would say for any entrepreneur or anybody who works in our space, it's one of the most difficult things to do. But I think it's a worthy cause. So I'm happy that we've been able to continue, and I'm sure we'll fail again and we'll have to continue to like try again. But it's been a very fun experience to continue to challenge ourselves to do it when it's so easy to do it the other way. So now all of our people have like, they're full time, they have healthcare benefits and a 401k. This year we gave everybody access to Boone coaching. I think you met Alex.
Yes, we love him.
So, yeah, who's a friend of mine for a long time now. He actually went to, I think, middle school or elementary school, my husband. So yeah, so it's just been like a great opportunity to really invest in our people, and like that's the kind of company I want to work for. And so every day I get to like wake up and go to work at my dream job, which is what I wanted to do. So.
Yeah. It's so interesting that you called that out, because we have talked, the ASWEATLIFE is a big community of fitness enthusiasts, but also on the flip side, the fitness industry, so we talk to trainers a lot, we talk to studio owners a lot. And this issue that you're bringing up about like having benefits and fair pay and all of the good perks that come along with that, it comes up often, and it seems like a problem that no one really knows how to solve, but it sounds like you sort of found that way, and the slowdown kind of helped push you more towards that right direction. So were there any other things that sort of came out during the pandemic out of this slowdown that like really sort of helped guide you back to your North Star?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, this has been such a challenging year. I mean, for all of us, I think we've all had to, spend time with ourselves and really reflect on like what's important to us. Really like our messaging over the last, like just in general, like our marketing and our messaging of our company got very focused on what we do for our B2B customer. I call them our buyer, right? Like the person who invests in the health of the groups that we work in. And I'm very proud that we get to make those people money. I mean, it's an unbelievable opportunity to have a business where you get to convince, Fortune 500 CEOs and mega real estate developers to invest in well-being for people, and they're also going to make money off of it. It's like a win-win.
Yeah.
But I became very like, I think we as a company, like, started to like talk about that more than we started talking about how we could help the end user. And I think ultimately, like, we can only fulfill that mission for them and actually deliver ROI if we actually care about the people at the end of the day. And so, I think that was like kind of one of my first big reflections of this year. It happened very early, really almost pre-pandemic. I spent a lot of time on the road last year with our customer, with our buyer, and not as much time with our user, right? And so I think just being able to kind of like become the user again really gave me the opportunity to have some hindsight and say, you know what, I really want to make sure that every person in this organization knows why they're here. We haven't given up on that mission. We're not, selling out and we're still all here for that reason. So that was a big, reflection. And we're actually completely rebranding the company, which will launch in 2021. And it will be very much a deeper reflection of really like our core values and why we do what we do. And my motto through the process has kind of been like, if our buyer, right, our B2B customer can't get behind that, like they're not a good customer for us. So we really want to attract people who have that same mission.
I would love to hear more about this rebranding. And I don't know if this works into the big goal that you have for the future and the second part of this question, but I would love for you to expand more on what kind of changes and pivots you guys are making and how that is going to bring more benefit to that end user.
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, like when you're in the world of, high-end real estate, like luxury properties, like we work in like the most stunning, beautiful buildings in the world, like the World Trade Centers in New York and the Aon Center in Chicago and the Post Office. Like it's just, they're beautiful. Like this real estate is fascinating. And, we also work with some of the most unbelievable brands and companies, right? And we're interacting with their employees. And so I think our brand has gotten like very luxury and very, it's gotten a little bit away from like that approachability that I really want people to feel when they think of well-being. And so, I want the brand's going to be a lot more fun, I would say, a lot more approachable, a lot more just like human-centered. And I think, again, it's just going to help the end user connect a little bit more with what we're doing for them, because it's all for them, right? It's for, Beth, who works in HR at the company that we're working with, right? It's not for the stakeholders of said company necessarily. So I'm excited, again, like all of those parties get to benefit, but I'm excited for our brand to really reflect the people who are like with us every day, using our experiences, participating in our programming, coming into our spaces, using our app, all of these different things.
And what is that going to look like in terms of execution? Like what actionable changes are you thinking about making?
In terms of the brand?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty big full brand change. So we'll have, a totally new logo, a new website. And then we're actually launching a brand new mobile app in March, which is going to be the big kind of cherry on top, which is I'm very excited about.
Nice. Earlier in our conversation, you were talking about the connection aspect and how Lulafit is helping to sort of facilitate that at a time right now where like we all need it a little more than ever. I'd love to hear more about how the connection has sort of played a role in your vision of the company and what you guys have done this year, especially to help foster connections virtually through your residential and your corporate offices.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think like connection and community is like the cornerstone of any good well-being program. It's not just about connecting with other people, but connecting with yourself, right? And really what you need. And I think to do that, like it has to be a part of it. And so, we've obviously we've been so lucky to be able to walk into some of the most beautiful spaces in the world, as I mentioned, and facilitate and operate them and put together these programs. And, for anybody on my team who's gotten to like work at these spaces, it's just an unbelievable experience. And the community you get to build is really special. I think the challenge is like, how do you do that when not everybody's there at the same time? And, I think 2020 has been interesting. Yes, we've had like this very stark change in like habits, right? Like obviously most of us don't leave our house as much as we used to. And like there's some very clear differentiators. But for the most part, like a lot of the trends that we're seeing have been trends for a long time. People want flexibility. They don't necessarily want to go to an office 5 days a week. Especially, millennials and younger, right, are really pushing for more trust from their employers and their spaces to really be able to work where they want, and really be measured on performance and output. And so we've been working over the last couple of years to figure out what that looks like. So if you're not in the office, I traveled 40 weeks last year, right? So I could have had the best program in the world at my office space, but I was on the road, so I couldn't use it. And I think now we need to really develop solutions that connects, people in the office, outside of the office, in their apartment, outside of their apartment, everywhere they are, right? With community and with culture. And I think that's really what our technology is doing, which is super exciting. So we've been able to meet that need. And now we're going to continue to go further with it. As I mentioned, we'll be launching this new app in March. There's so many apps out there that deliver content, which is fabulous, because if you're like yourself or me, right, you probably know exactly what you need, what you want, and you just go and get it, right? Like, your favorite people, you can go on and like take the classes, go to the events. I think what we found really needs to be different in the industry is like, we can't just throw a bunch of content out there and expect people to know what to do with it. We really have to guide them, listen to them, and help them find their niches in the community and ways that they can, not only contribute to the culture, but reap the benefits of it. And so our app's going to have a really large component of that, right? In terms of like the technology will actually coach the user on what to participate in to reach their goals, which I'm very, very excited about.
I feel like you know me a lot better than us just meeting on this Zoom call when you were saying like, we have our favorites, we know like what we need at any given time. I literally just got my Peloton delivered yesterday, and I took like the one ride with the one instructor that I knew. And I was like, well, this is who I take forever now, because the choices can be like so overwhelming. And I'm like, I don't know who this person is. Well, I like their playlist or their style is going to be like a good match for me. And I would love a little help figuring out like, what to go from there and how to like sort of navigate the choices, because there are so many choices. I mean, not just for online fitness, but for like anything that you want to do right now. And it sounds like that's what you guys are kind of honing in on, is being that coach.
Yeah. And I think, you can really get in your comfort zone there, right? And like, that's really not like, it's nice to be in your comfort zone once in a while, but like, we want to help people push themselves outside and grow and develop. So, it's as much about personal growth and like creating new connections with new people that maybe you've never met before, trying new experiences that you maybe wouldn't have done before. And so again, technology has the ability to do that. And so yes, that is going to be a large part of what we focus on. So, we might learn you over time, right? Our app, and it would encourage you to try something maybe that you wouldn't have otherwise gone to, because we're understanding what your goals are. And we're presenting you the experiences that we know will help you achieve that. Yeah. And, you and I are probably people who are very comfortable working out. I'm very comfortable, taking a cooking class and learning how to massage kale and like use it, right? But for some people, well-being is stepping away from their computer for 5 minutes and interacting with another human being. For other people, it's like having an experience that doesn't provoke stress, right? And so there's so many different areas of well-being for people. And so like doing that in a very approachable way and really understanding what's going to work for different audiences was an important piece for me to build into our technology. And so I'm excited. I think it's going to be different, but useful and valuable.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Did we accidentally answer the what's your big goal for the future, or did you have a different one in mind that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, if I'm setting goals 3 months away, we probably wouldn't be sitting here. I mean, yes, I'm very excited for all the things that we have, coming up in the next year. I think, I look at future as like the next, 5 to 10, or I'm not doing my job, right? And I'm just, I'm excited to just continue to build the company. I have the best job in the world. I absolutely love it. I think the challenge is, I think with any company, right? Like now we have like venture capital money. We've got the best clients in the world. Like we've got, we have a lot of exciting things going on. And I think now the challenge for me is to like really always keep us rooted back to that foundational mission. I'm just a huge believer in conscious capitalism. I absolutely, I want the company to do well. I want to, personally be successful, but I always want it to be because I did something good for the world. And so I think, my goal is to really continue to keep that as our North Star. And I think obviously helping and empowering people is one of the best things that you can do. And we get to do it at a really large scale. And so I'm excited to continue to find ways to grow and to develop the company while still, at the end of the day, keeping all of the people who first, helps me get this idea in mind, and to help them too.
You said earlier that Lulafit had grown 400% over the last year. Do you have any advice for maybe other entrepreneurs who are expecting that sort of big explosive growth, but need help maintaining that same vision and making sure that it trickles down as they grow?
Yeah, I will say it sounds so fun to grow explosively. We've had a few years.
Or painful.
Yeah, I believe 2016 we grew by about 400%, and then again 2019, and then every year there was about year, but it's been about like between 200 and 300%, which is still a lot, and those felt like slow years. Yeah, it's been crazy. So I would say like it's very hard to prepare. The biggest thing is that like what I always say is like what got you here isn't necessarily going to get you there, and so I think you just have to be like really adaptable. And it's going to sound cliche, but like you just can't be afraid to like fail, like to really be able to achieve that and then meet the demand of the customer, because sometimes selling things is not the problem, right? Like sometimes you have a product or a service or something that people want so bad that it just boom explodes and takes off, which is great. Obviously there's like the flip side problem, which is like trying to find product market fit. But when you have that, the problem then becomes, how do I serve my customer in a way that I just promised them I would?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really like where you have to be the most diligent, right? Like you have to invest the most time, the most energy, and be relentless in your pursuit of like, upholding your promise to your customer. And so I think if you do that, like you can survive kind of anything. But you've also got to make sure that, it's a huge part of your plan and your roadmap, and you're going to have to adapt and change other plans.
Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit for the final part of the interview. This is the part that I love a lot, because I feel like it allows us to sort of get a deeper look into you and like your mindset. So we'd love to have you give sort of one tip or recommendation that has been helping you since March 12th or 20th or whenever the pandemic officially started. What's been working for you, and what do you think might work for other people?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I don't know if anyone has any. It's like every day's different, and I think giving yourself like some grace is like one of the biggest things. I've had some really hard days, and I've just been I think one of the biggest things is like I've always been a very empathetic leader, which I've gotten some criticism for, just in general from, advisors or, potential, like business colleagues. I just really think like there's a lot of power in like sharing what you're going through. And so I've been very like open with my team, and encouraged all of us to be open with each other to really help each other through. So I would say like find the people that aren't going to judge you for like having a bad day, but also having a good day.
Yeah.
Because when we're going through this like crazy experience, like the whole world is in like disarray, right? And there's terrible things going on. It can almost feel worse to have a good day, right? Or to be excited about something, or to feel like I'm actually doing fine. Like, why am I doing fine? Does that make me a terrible person? So I think it's both. Like you need to have that core group of people that you can connect with on a regular basis. It doesn't have to be in person. You can connect with them on the phone, you can connect with them on Zoom. For me, that's a mix of obviously my family, who are like my, my biggest support group, friends. I have a professional coach, and then also my team, right? And just being able to share with people your wins, your losses, like everything in between, and being able to have like an accepting presence around you. But then be that for other people too, right? Because it feels good to also support other people. And then, the biggest thing too is like, obviously most people are like, oh, you run a well-being company. Like you must wake up at like 5:30 in the morning and like work out for 2 hours and then like make yourself a smoothie and meditate. And I mean, yeah, like there are some days where like I do, eat where I'm like, okay, like that felt okay. I went a whole 3 days without pizza. Like I want to pat myself on the back for that, right? But realistically, like this is a really hard year. Like sometimes I just want to like sit on my couch and like eat ice cream and not do a workout. And that's okay, you know? So I think it's also doing, again, focusing on those other pieces of your well-being, which is not just if I work out every day, I'm going to be fine. Or if I eat really healthy every day, I'm going to be fine. But what do you need for your mental health? And then what do you need for your social health too? Another big thing is like that professional development. Like, how are you going to continue to develop yourself and work on things? And I think if you weight all of those buckets equally, you feel a lot more fulfilled and, quite frankly, a lot more motivated to do any of them. Mm-hmm. So that's, for what it's worth.
No, I think technically you gave me more than one piece of advice, so thank you.
Okay, great.
Going above and beyond. But I love when you were talking about being an empathetic leader and like creating that space where, maybe not always in the workplace, but creating that network where you can celebrate your wins and, commiserate with your tougher days too. And it definitely related to what you were saying about like feeling guilty for being relatively okay or, being better than okay. And I think that's something that our audience has heard a lot too. As the leader of your company, did you find that like, being a little more open about good days and bad days helped encourage others to do the same thing? Like, did that sort of help add to the company culture and like the connection during these last, 9 months?
I feel closer with really 100% of my workforce now than I think we were very close before. So this is really saying something. But I feel so much closer because I feel like when you open up about a struggle or a shared experience, and you're able to just relate in a very real way, it breaks down that barrier. I think when you are the leader of an organization, there sometimes is this hesitancy for people to look at you as like a real person. I find it so strange. I'm like, wait, I'm just a normal person. Mm-hmm. I have the answers. Like, are you kidding? You're supposed to give me the answers. So it's been interesting, right? To like really have the opportunity to like also share, like, I don't always know the right thing to do, especially in this crazy situation. I'm not always going to do the right thing. And I definitely am not popping out of bed every single day in 2020 being like, yeah, let's go get it. There are definitely days where I'm worried, I'm scared, I'm upset. I feel, sad. I feel angry. And, all of our lives changed drastically. So whether there's been good components that we can focus on, like there's also been, not so good ones. And so, yes, I do feel like opening up to people has helped me feel closer to them and connected to them. I want people in my organization to always know that I'm just a normal person like them. And just because, I'm the founder of the company or the CEO doesn't make me any more important than anybody else. It definitely doesn't make, what I'm going through any different than what they're going through. And so I think we've all been able to relate and connect on that in a really real way. Which has been helpful for survival, but I think it's also really brought us closer in a good way, and it's allowed us to solve problems in a way that I don't think we could have if we weren't having those honest conversations.
You've said a couple of times in this interview that you are working your dream job and that you're waking up and like this is exactly what you want to do. And I just, from continuing this conversation, it sounds like you have a really big role in creating this dream job for yourself and for other people in your company. And I think that's so cool.
Thank you. I feel a lot of responsibility for it, but it's the best kind of responsibility. And I'm really honored to be able to do it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Where can we find out more about you, about Lulafit? Where can we sign up for updates about the new app launch? Give some self-promotion here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we obviously have a really exciting digital product out now called Lulafit Live. So we've got live fitness classes and events every single day and week, and there's so much cool stuff going on the app. So that's available for immediate use, and you can sign up for that on our website, Lulafit, LULAFIT.com. And you can pretty much find us anywhere by that name. So on Instagram, on Facebook, on We're actually not on Twitter. We don't have that as many. We don't have enough to say to be on Twitter. On LinkedIn as well. So we're always doing fun things there, and definitely following us on those channels. You'll definitely hear about our new app.
Awesome. Colleen, thank you again for being on the podcast today.
Thank you so much.